Good evening. This is Maestro Cotello with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today we have a 2v2 on Golgotha Depths. Our first player today is the player F.K.A. Protagonist. I'm probably just going to call him the Protagonist from now on, playing as Sindri, Trollface, Chaos Sorcerer. The Chaos Sorcerer is a spell-casting hero who can do a lot of things from long range with his spells. He does damage and also a lot of control and disabling. His teammate is Metal Commander, playing as the Force Commander. This one, very bright white. I've never seen a paint job like this before, with a bit of a lightning bolt on his shoulder pad. The Force Commander is a tanky melee hero, starts out with a chainsword and bolt pistol. He can also get power swords, thunder hammers, power fists, etc. On the other team, first off we got Commissar Sebastian Yarrick. Yarrick is playing as the Commissar Lord. The Commissar Lord, this one here is a Deathcore of Kree Commissar Lord, so he does have that gas mask. He is a slightly tanky melee hero, does not really have the durability of heroes like the Force Commander, the Chaos Lord, all those other tanky melee heroes, but you still often want to get him tying things up, running straight into the fight, and he does have a free energy shield to start out. You can also buff his troops right there by shooting them in the head, which he just did. And then finally, we got DJ Raffa playing as the Ravener Alpha. The Ravener Alpha is a tunneling commander. He can produce tunnels that allow his enemies, or not his enemies, his own allies, his own units and his allies to get around the map rather quickly. Starts out in range combat, but he can definitely fight in melee combat as well with certain upgrades. Looks like red team taking the 2-cap to start out. They do have the bigger armies. We've got Yarrick going for a triple guardsman build, which I actually think is a pretty solid build. You can put those 3 guardsmen out on the field pretty cheaply, and it's a lot of range firepower just because you have 3 squads, and that usually ends up actually being pretty effective for dealing with many different kinds of threats. You can deal with suppression teams just by splitting up your squads and attacking a suppression team from many different angles. You can flank just because you have multiple squads. You can actually sometimes even deal with melee units or jump units just by kiting and focus firing because, again, you have 3 squads, 3 range squads. Commissar players also seem to like to do it so that they can use execute, and then they can keep their executed squad maybe in the back while the non-executed squads are a little bit more forward. We even have Yarrick putting down a buildable cover, or deployable cover as it's called, in the middle of a fight. And here we even have the guardsman getting buffed again because we have Yarrick already going for a bunch of upgrades. He's got the power sword upgrade, which is usually a good choice against power armor races because you get that sword so early on as opposed to having to wait until tier 2 for the power fist. Meanwhile, Metal Commander does have some very fast assault space marines. Pretty much made that his first purchase. Definitely has not gotten any other war gear. Oh, I'm wrong. He got a flamer in addition to his assault marines, but those were some pretty fast. I feel like those were some pretty fast assault marines. Meanwhile, on this side, we've got the player for the Protagonist. I like this guy. He's a pretty cool dude. I don't know how good his Sorcerer is, though, but we'll see. He, very oddly, he's getting his second Heretic late. He went for that short build, only having 1 Heretic, 1 Chaos Space Marine. Oh my god, and now his Sorcerer is in a huge amount of trouble, and he does not get him out alive. So yeah, I think he was trying to melee down that Ravener tunnel, and then a whole army just spawned right in front of his face. And unfortunately, he did not react in time to teleport away. Now, he did, before we saw it, he had upgraded to the Vestments of the Warp, allowing him to teleport, and he would have been able to teleport out of there, but I'm guessing he just did not react in time. Meanwhile, we have some Catachan Devils out for Commissar Yarrick. He actually seems to be struggling quite a bit. He's actually getting hit pretty hard by the Assault Space Marines, perhaps in part because he actually chose not to get a Sentinel. Meanwhile, we have Tactical Marines from Metal Commander actually getting very, very dangerously close to dying, but they will get out of there alive. It appears that either the Catachan Devils, they use either Shotgun Blast or Old Reliable, going for some force melee on the Assault Marines as they retreat. And he did manage to get another model. He was also trying to go for more with the Old Reliable. Sometimes you use Old Reliable on retreat just kind of as a last-ditch effort to kill a model or even a squad. So Protagonist not looking so strong right now. He's only got, I don't even know what he's been spending his money on. I mean, he's got Sorcerer Warriors. He did have to buy back his Sorcerer, and he only has 2 Heretics, a Chaos Space Marine, and no upgrades on any of them. Oh, actually, just kidding. I'm not calling it right these days. Now he's got double Aspiring Champions. I feel like he just got those, though. Alright, we got a contested power farm going down in the middle for the red team. The red team at the moment not having any control of the side contested power farms or nodes. And the interesting thing about this map is just the fact that there are only 2 natural power farms per team. This one and this one. Everything else is contested, which is a bit unusual, so you do need to work to control those contested power farms much more than you would on most other maps. And if you don't, that can put you out of the game kind of early. This map just being actually a little more punishing in that respect, so games can go lopsided a little bit more quickly on this map than they can on most other maps. But it can also still produce some good games. Also, this little ledge here that we see right here is sometimes considered a little bit too much of an advantage for the red team, or whatever team is on top. I don't know that it's necessarily always red. Metal Commander, meanwhile, making a hard switch over to the top lane. He's got his Assault Marines right here. Double Assault Marines, a highly uncommon build, but there are a lot of good potential things about it. I actually think it's better if you don't jump. Well, actually, it can be better if you don't jump both at the same time. Say your opponent doesn't retreat. You can actually stagger the jump so you can get twice the disruption. Although that being said, sometimes it is better to jump them both at once because the combined DPS of 2 Assault Space Marines, even though Assault Space Marines are a low DPS melee squad, low DPS for a melee squad, combining 2 Assault Marine squads, the DPS is not so low anymore. And that can actually be very threatening to something like a setup team. You can potentially wipe out a setup team if you jump both Assault Marines in at the same time. I've actually done it myself. Meanwhile, it does not look like the Protagonist is going to be winning this battle. He's got a single squad of a Grenade Launcher Heretics, so he's upgraded one of his Heretics to Grenade Launchers, and I think he was doing that in part because his melee Heretics were not doing that well. They were too much just walking, getting suppressed by the Barbed Strangler, and then really just bleeding and losing models. So having a Grenade Launcher squad allows that particular Heretic squad to actually fight back. The Protagonist might want to keep one as melee since he still has to deal with Hormagaunts from Raffa. And a squad of melee Heretics would be his primary counter to that. But I'd say with only one Hormagaunt brood, he probably does not need to have more than one melee Heretic squad. Even though I almost always have 2. Try not to step over the the IED, because even if you can see it, if you just walk over it, they might detonate it for you. Like, this is dangerous. Yeah, that was not good. Anyway, all right, Metal Commander is in here with his double Assault Marine squad, his double Assault Marine build, but I feel like he's overextending them a little bit. Lost 1 model. Only lost 1 model, I think a little lucky to only lose 1 model, and now he's actually fighting both Raffa and Yarrick. Well, Protagonist was here with his Sorcerer, but he had to retreat, and now we have some executed Catachan Devils. In fact, they have been executed with the Commissar Lord having the Bionic Eye, granting him the Inspired Determination ability. That's why we see these gold circles against the Catachan Devils. That means in addition to getting a damage buff, a 100% damage buff, they also move faster and are resistant to damage. Now we have a combined push from both Yarrick and Raffa to destroy the generator farm over here. Metal Commander is going to come out of base. He's coming out slightly under strength, and I was wondering how... Wow, that's actually going to work out very well. Oh my god. That actually worked out very, very well by the Protagonist. I was actually wondering what the Protagonist was going to do to help out. Now, Metal Commander did lose 2 Assault Marine models. He kind of suffered in that respect, but they actually did inflict some pretty nice losses to Raffa and, well, mainly to Raffa. That was the Protagonist using the Dark Flames as a mini nuke, and that's something I usually disapprove of, but I can't deny right there that it worked out, and Protagonist himself is saying that worked out really well. I think what helped there was the disruption that Metal Commander got from the Assault Marines. So that means all those Termagants and Hormagaunts were just lying down on their backs in that fire, and they weren't stopping, dropping, and rolling. They were just lying down in that fire, and he lost one Termagant brood. I think another one came extremely close, and there we see the Icon of Tzeentch. Unfortunately, there it was not used very, very well. It was used on a full health Guardsman squad, and Yarrick just retreated out of there before a model could be killed. The Icon of Tzeentch, or the Curse of Tzeentch, as the ability is called, is a warrior for the Sorcerer, not very commonly used because it has very, very specific uses. What happens is it places a curse on a target squad, and then if a model from that squad dies, it will explode, doing area of effect damage and weapon knockback to any units around it. And it will do weapon knockback to the squad itself, any allied squads, as well as any enemy squads. So you have to be careful with your own squads. Your own squads will get disrupted. Say if Metal Commander used these Assault Marines to try to detonate some of those Guardsman models, they would actually get knocked down once the Guardsman models exploded. That being said, the Icon of Tzeentch, the Curse of Tzeentch ability, however, has been changed a bit in the most recent version of Elite Mod. It has been changed so that instead of doing a flat 25 damage per model that explodes, it does 15% of the model's of the target model's health, which is probably I think it's the intention is to make it slightly less effective against the squads that it was already too good against, like Catachan Devils, like Guardsmen, Heretics, and to make it slightly better against squads that it's not so good against. Like squads, basically squads that have more health. That being said, in my personal opinion, I think, wow, look at all the models dying from that Chaos Space Marine squad. But that being said, I think, in my opinion, I actually feel that the effect is a net nerf on basically on the Curse of Tzeentch. Since I think the detonation will be a lot less beneficial against the squads that it actually works out against, and I think it will probably still not be that effective against the squads that it's not currently that effective against. Hormagaunts in retreat here just might take out this Heretic, but that is a very nice... Oh no! I thought that was going to be a nice save from this Blood Crusher to disrupt the Hormagaunts, but then he actually killed his own Heretic squad with the charge. But these Hormagaunts right here, they had been affected by the Catalyst Global from the Ravner Alpha, which it actually damages the squad. However, it also gives them a significant damage buff, and these Hormagaunts were actually about to kill that Heretic squad in retreat when the Protagonist tried to save the squad and then ended up killing the squad himself. But the Protagonist right now with a very light build, he went to Tier 2 with a very, very light build of only the 2 Heretics and the single Chaos Space Marine, which is very, very difficult to do. And then he got a fast Blood Crusher out on the field. Then certainly, it's very difficult to do that. There are certainly a lot of risks to do that. You might just not have enough fighting power to actually stay on the field and win engagements with that particular build with the Sorcerer. If you can pull it off, though, you've got yourself a low upkeep build. You're getting to Tier 2 early, which is usually not something that the Sorcerer does. And you can get out an early Tier 2 unit. Now, right here, we have the Dreadnought was able to use the Emperor's Fist. I think we have a Guardsman squad right here that just might go down, but the Force Commander is still using Battle Cry. The Dreadnought right here appears to be winning things, winning this engagement for them. Now the Dreadnought is in a lot of trouble getting chased down by the Ogrins. It seems like the Ogrins were getting disrupted for so long by the Dreadnought, then by the Assault Space Marines, maybe even by Shotgun Scouts, but now the Dreadnought is in a lot of trouble, and Yarrick actually stops to go for the Force Commander instead of the Dreadnought, and he might get the Force Commander anyway. Assault Marine... Oh, but Emperor's Fist actually finally goes off cooldown. He gets the stun, and he manages to get his Dreadnought out of there. You know, I think that it might have been a bit of a miscall by Yarrick to go for the Force Commander instead of the Dreadnought. He may have been able to take out the Dreadnought, but I guess he went for the guarantee of being able to take out the Force Commander. It's not going to be that hard of a revive for the Protagonist, but it's still a bit of a commitment for his Sorcerer to move all the way over there. Although, undoubtedly, if he had managed to take out the Dreadnought, that would have been a much bigger win than just taking out the Force Commander, by a significant amount, especially since in teams, of course, you can just revive your hero by having your teammate revive him. But Sorcerer needs to teleport out of there. He teleports out of there, gets out of there. He uses a Summoning Circle, and he's using that, I mean, I guess it's denying the cap, which is, it's not so bad. These days, the Summoning Circle is really best used when you still actually have your army present, because it allows you to reinforce. So particularly useful with Heretics, because you can reinforce all of those models that are going to die very quickly, as well as any that you voluntarily Doom Blast. Raffa apparently saying he's having a problem with his tunnels, can't get certain units out of his tunnels. Certainly not going to be good for him. Raffa, meanwhile, he revives his Ravener Alpha. I wonder what, if any, units he has stuck in the tunnel. Doesn't appear there's any at the moment. But now we have Raffa, I think, starting to go for a bit of that ranged build that you can sometimes see from the Ravener Alpha that can be pretty devastating. Let's take a look at the Ravener Alpha's Warriors. He's got the Acid Splatter, so he's gone for the ranged weapon. Oh, we've got some Sigil of the Rift from the Protagonist. So he's got Sigil of the Rift. That actually meant that he gave up the Icon of Tzeentch, at least for now. Although the Icon of Tzeentch is quite a bit less useful against Tyranids that are under Synapse. This is not looking good for the Protagonist. He does manage to get his Blood Crusher out of there, but this Heretic squad is in quite a bit of trouble. Now, it is interesting to see that the Protagonist has gotten the Sigil of the Rift. He doesn't have melee Heretics, which does make the Sigil of the Rift a lot less effective, since usually you want to teleport enemy squads into melee Heretics. That's one of the uses of the Sigil of the Rift, and probably the most common. So he's not going to be nearly as effective without having 2 squads of melee Heretics, and he's only gotten 1 squad of grenade launcher Heretics. The Protagonist really needs to get new units out on the field. Maybe going straight for a Great Unclean one. Meanwhile, I noticed it, but I haven't mentioned it, that we have a Carnifex on the field, a Thornback Carnifex. Thornback giving it an extra 525 health, also allowing it to spawn Rippers and allowing it to charge. That charge, usually pretty good, kind of the way we've even been seeing it from the Blood Crusher. The charge basically gives the Carnifex an escape mechanism, and while you can use the charge offensively, I think generally a lot of people save the charge for any unit that can charge as an escape, because it can be, you just get so much more survivability out of your walker or whatever unit you have with a charge when you charge as an escape move instead of an offensive move. That's a good position. Dreadnought, meanwhile, still alive from Metal Commander, and he's in Tier 3, so is the Protagonist. The Protagonist at this point obviously going for some kind of Tier 3 super unit. He's got the Requisition, he does not have the power. And he's also got Khorne Space Marines that are losing a lot of models. Meanwhile, we got the Carnifex about to chase down this Blood Crusher. Now, it's actually not entirely unreasonable for the Blood Crusher to be used as a way of fighting a Carnifex, but not without support. He would need Heretic Worship support, as well as hopefully some kind of vehicle snare, like a Las Cannon or a Plague Marine squad. Meanwhile, back over here, we've got now the Fist of Brachus from the Commissar Lord. That being said, Yarrick has lost. He did lose a Guardsman squad. All right, the Commissar goes down there, meaning that he will no longer buff his own units with the None Shall Fall ability. Now, the Commissar has the Fist of Brachus. That's a power fist. It gives him the None Shall Fall ability that makes any squads around him invulnerable. They still take damage, but their models cannot die, which can be a very powerful ability, but you also need to balance it out with the fact that when you actually basically, once that ability wears off, or if your Commissar dies, your units are going to be at almost no health if they have actually been taking damage. Meanwhile, this Blood Crusher nearly dead. A swing by the Carnifex misses. Unfortunately, the Carnifex right now will be able to chase down the Blood Crusher, except we do have a Chaos Predator now with a Las Cannon. We've also got Assault Marines right here. We have one squad of Assault Marines as well as a Vanguard Veteran squad. So certainly some melee damage coming out of the Space Marines that can deal with this Carnifex, as well as now a Las Cannon Predator. Although the Protagonist at this point might want to get a second Heretic squad, because he's in the difficult situation of having 2 vehicles out on the field with only one source of repair. Unfortunately, his Predator, I feel, is not in such a great position, caught slightly between armies, but Metal Commander is engaging this one. His Assault Marines are at very low health. I don't think that's a good situation for his Assault Marines. He could risk losing his Assault Marines right there. Assault Marines do manage to get out of there with 1 model. Vanguard Veterans still here, along with the Force Commander. Things are still a little bit dangerous with the Vanguard Veterans getting knocked down by the Catachan Devils, and we actually have a friendly summoning circle from the Protagonist. Very, very nice, helpful play. Good teammate. Now we have the Protagonist, unfortunately, not looking that strong. He did not choose to get one of those super units, instead got a Predator, and now he is having trouble supporting them because he only has 1 squad of Heretics. Meanwhile, we've got double Carnifexes out from DJ Raffa. We've got one as a Thornback Carnifex, the other is a Venom Cannon Carnifex. The Venom Cannon Carnifex, as we can see, does not grant any health buff, but the Carnifex actually gets a ranged weapon. We're gonna have a Sigil, and actually teleport some Hormigons out. Now, if we take a look at the Sorcerer, he's got, some Termagants. Teleported some Termagants to himself, but that Sigil ability, considerably less powerful when you don't have a bunch of melee Heretics to back him up. I mean, as we see, Raffa, I don't even know if he's noticed, but he's just walking his Termagants away from the Sorcerer. The blue team actually low on VPs. They've got a double cap. Oh no, he might lose this Heretic, but no, that's not a Heretic. That's the Chaos Space Marines. But oh my god, at 1 model, he's bleeding a lot. Meanwhile, Protagonist, I don't know, is he still going for one of those super units? All right, Predator needs to start microing away now. It is going to take Venom Cannon shots. It's also going to get chased down by the Thornback Carnifex, which will damage it as well. It needs to keep moving. It really can't even stop. We have, oh no, he's got path blocking with his own units. Meanwhile, over here, we do have an orbital bombardment. He's jumping his own Assault Marines into the orbital? No, he actually managed to get right around it, but he did catch a lot of Guardsmen in that orbital. I don't think he managed to wipe any single squads, but we do have Catachans fairly low, a Guardsman squad low. I think if he had focused, well, he's going for the Baneblade, which actually is, there really can be nothing more important than taking out the Baneblade, although I also felt there was a possibility that he could have taken out some squads. I don't know if there was a Flesh over Steel. Well, there was definitely no Flesh over Steel. I saw someone attacking with a Power Fist, but it was actually a Vanguard model. The Force Commander is over there. But this is actually quite threatening to the Baneblade. Did take it down to less than half health. But there's a Demolisher Cannon shot. Does not want to be there when that happens. Lost, I think lost 2 Vanguard models and the Sergeant on the Assault Marines. Heavy losses there for Metal Commander. Meanwhile, we do have a Scout Squad right here. They do try to Shotgun Blast this Barb Strangler Warrior. However, they don't knock the Warriors down, only suppress them. Now the Dreadnought in a little bit of trouble. Baneblade, I think, was maybe trying to pursue. Oh, he's revealing so that the Baneblade can get sight. Yeah, he needs to get that Dreadnought out of there. Keep getting out of there. An approach with the Force Commander, that's a good idea. At the very least, to scare off the Baneblade, since the Baneblade does not want to get Flesh over Steel really at any point, although he does not really have the support he needs to take out the Baneblade if he went for a Flesh over Steel so early at that point. Mostly would have just deterred Yarrick from going after the Dreadnought. Alright, meanwhile over here, we have the Ravener Alpha getting killed by Khorne Space Marines. That Ravener Alpha, he was in melee with these Khorne Space Marines. They were definitely going to win over him. and he was only equipped with the acid. Wait, did he have the acid splatter or the? No, he had the corrosive devour, I believe. I forget. We'll have to see once he gets revived, which is now. He has acid splatter, so I'm wrong. I originally made a mistake, and I know the difference, but I made a mistake. I don't know why, because it said acid splatter, but for some reason I said corrosive devour. But yeah, this is actually the Ravner Alpha's melee weapon. That being said, he's still lost to the Khorne Space Marines there, which I'm actually still not surprised by. Khorne Space Marines now in a little bit of trouble. I think getting slightly overextended, but actually it's the Hormagaunts doing very, very well. The Khorne Space Marines were getting reinforced by the summoning circle right here. And the Hormagaunts right now, they have remarkable staying power at level 4 with Adrenal Glands, and they're actually going to take out the Hormagaunts. This is actually not looking good for the Protagonist. Lost his Heretic Squad. He will need to get a new one. He did get his Sorcerer out of there this time, and now he has the Great Unclean One. And he's going to lose his Khorne Space Marines, which is really, really sad. But I think he's taking on too much stuff right there. And unfortunately, I don't think this is going well for Metal Commander at this point. Metal Commander having lost a bunch of stuff. That is the end of the game. Hope you enjoyed the cast. Have a good night.